Hello and welcome to Ashish Unique Mindset. Today's video is a Father's Day special video in which I'll be paying my regards and gratitude that I have had for my late father who passed away on January 17th, 2023, which is 2 years ago from today. So I'll be walking everyone through the journey that I have had with my father over the last 3 decades. So I was born in 1988 and my father's age then was around 45, and he was in the mid stages of his professional life, which was being a professor, a scientist in Ministry of Environment and Forest, Dehradun, which he has served in for 35 years throughout his career. So being born at that time was the most loving thing that could ever happen in my household. I was the most loved person, most loved thing in the entire household, and the entire household revolved around me. And giving a background of where my father came from, he came from the place that he was in is an incredible story. He has come up from a very nominal family in Bengal, and he had studied in NIT Durgapur, and he climbed up the ranks to reach the position of scientist in FRI Dehradun, which is a remarkable achievement given the place he was coming from. So when I was in FRI Dehradun, I realized very early in my life that I was blessed with a very good life. A life in a campus which is so serene, so beautiful, has been bestowed upon me. That is a privilege, and my father is the person who has given me this privilege, which is granted upon me, and I was dependent upon emotionally, and he was so loving to me that connection was always reciprocated in our relationship. We were like friends, very good friends in fact, and we had always had that a connect which unfortunately I don't no longer have, but I so fondly remember that it is always a thing that is always there with me. So when I was in Dehradun, the life that I led was very comfortable, very devoid of any sort of suffering or pain or any hardships, and it was a very serene life that I was leading. And my father used to teach me maths, and I had a relationship in which I really looked up to my father and my brother, and my mother was always there by my side, and my brother and my father used to help me on my studies aspect. So I really looked up to my brother, and my father was always an inspiration because I knew that the life that I'm seeing around is beautiful, and my father is the one who has worked so hard for it. But friends, in 2004 my father retired and made a decision to purchase this apartment in Kolkata, and we did not travel that often. We did not travel much, in fact. We did not travel that often, and I had never been outside of Dehradun. So I didn't have the exposure to come to his native, and when I came, I found it very difficult. And I found it very difficult to fathom that why the most loved thing that there is in my father's life, which is me, is being put through such hard times. That is the same time I had given my 10th boards, and the results came out as I was in my father's town in Bengal. So that was the first time I came to his hometown and to his roots. And I had asked my mother that where are the mountains of Mussoorie? Where are the mountains? I cannot see them. I had that less amount of exposure to the world outside, even though I was 15 and a half, given my 10 boards. So clearly I didn't have the exposure to the world outside, and I didn't have much idea of what life is outside. So when this happened to me and my father retired in 2004 and we came to Kolkata, firstly we came to Bengal, to his native, and then we came to Kolkata, to the flat that I currently live in. So this journey actually really shook me from within, because I was not prepared for it at all. Not in terms of emotion, not in terms of any fortitude that needed to tell me that this is what the reality of life is. Even though I knew that this is dictated by situations and circumstances, there is this sense of deniability in one's ego that even though he's not yet 16, but unfortunately life is like that. Even though you are young, the circumstances can be very hard. So when this transition happened, I came to have some resentment towards my father, and we both knew about the problems that I was going through in these times. And he was a very perceptive man, and he always spoke less, was a very simple man, but had incredible perception to feel and sense what his beloved son is going through, or what is the transition that has been made suddenly. Is it the right decision? And in the back of the mind, he might have known that it was not perhaps the correct decision that was made. So, but when I came to Kolkata, the years that followed has led in enormous amount of spiritual growth that I have already described in my transformation video. So in that sense of trouble, I did my 11th and 12th from Kolkata, which was immensely difficult, and my father was there beside me, but there was a bit of the respect that I had, the amount of gratitude that I had in my early years was dissipating, because I was seeing the reality around, and I was not used to places such as Kolkata, which is entirely opposite of Dehradun. Completely different, completely new atmosphere. The mindset shift is different, which is, even though I speak Bengali at my home, but I could not really communicate in Bengali with others. So this was the situation. And in those times, even though there was some bit of resentment towards my father that what have you done, he always understood the struggles that his son was going through. That is why he was very lenient and kind towards me. He was a very kind person anyways, but he was very lenient, and he always actually all the pressure that I put on myself was made up by myself. It was not something that he or my parents have put on. It was by my parents or of that sort. And it was a completely survival instinct that I was going through, that I had very close friends whom I am very close to. I could not describe the shift in cultural mannerisms that I felt after I came from Dehradun. The way everyone speaks and the way how a person thinks is there is subtle differences which I could not relate to. And moreover, even if I could relate to, there was a resentment so deep within me that told me not to relate, because being treated unjustly through the circumstances of my father retiring early left a deep scar in my soul, and how I perceived things and how I looked at things. So when I was going to my college years, when I enrolled into college, in the very initial days only, in the very initial days itself, I could sense within me that there is something awfully wrong with the way I'm functioning. So that is the time I lost sleep, and I could not sleep that well, and how that is when the entire family the person who was the the most beloved thing in the family was suffering, and my parents were very perceptive to that. And since I was not a rebel sort of a person back then, and neither I believed in one thing, that I could not rebel much also, because the situations in life was such that I needed to pursue something in life, the bare minimum to sustain in the circumstances that were there, because the circumstances were really suddenly very dark. Because I knew that if I do anything or tell my father to do anything, he will do it for me, but eventually it will have a bearing on my survival, which, and we have a worldview at that age, that what we want to do and where we want to be with everyone, what everyone is doing. So given those circumstances, I continued my studies, and this thought and this immense burden that I was carrying led to clinical depression. And clinical depression, friends, is very perceptible. It's very different from what a conventional. And my depression, friends, had a very deep physiological indications, that sweating, immense, is like profuse sweating, apparent nervousness in the face, and it transpired to OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So this was a time, friends, I confided everything to my family, and of course my father and my mother, everybody. I kept them in the same page. Even my brother, he was still in Dehradun back then. So all this while I had to make the effort to have them beside me, and they were beside me, just that I had to make a little bit more deliberate effort to tell them that this is what I'm going through. After which our family grew in the resilience that we developed, and my father came to the realization that as I went to the doctors, and we went to therapists, even though he did not encourage the idea that much, but I realized that how much it was necessary. But he was always there for me in the things that we shared, in the pain that I was feeling. He never, even he understood the pain better than anyone. I did my post-grad also in computer applications, and it couldn't have been possible without the support of my parents, without the support of my father, who was, despite being retired, was continuing this quest on getting financial security in the coming times ahead through his own means in various banks in Kolkata. So in this pain, troubled times, I went to Bangalore to seek a job, and my father was fully supportive of that, and he never said no to anything in my life. So as I was not well in that time, I asked my mother to stay with me in the 3-4 months of internship and in my first job at CGI Bangalore. And I was never said no to anything by my parents, by my father. They always knew that what I went through, how, and in the course of the years they realized that what the person is actually going through. My parents are very perceptive. They see, and then they say less. They are very simple people, but they perceive of the struggle, and they know that what the person is going through. So when my mother stayed with me for 3 or 4 months, my father had lost weight to 40 kgs as he was staying alone in Kolkata, managing the things all by himself, and my brother was posted elsewhere. So in this dynamics, when my mother returned back to my father, and he did not complain one bit, but his health recovered when my mother went back and took care of him. And I continued with my journey in Bangalore, and he was fully supportive of what I was doing, and I made some conscious decisions on how to proceed with my life in Bangalore. Financially, it is not easy in Bangalore, and I was very open to my father during those times about my needs, and I did not compromise on my lifestyle, and he was very supportive of the fact. Contrary to what my other friends and what my other peers were doing, they were in a quest to change the jobs, to increase, to go higher in the salary structure, and I was not. I knew that what my bearings were and decided according to those aspects, given my life situations and the struggle that I was going through with my illness, and it required medications and other necessities. So my father always knew that what my struggles were and what I was going through in life. So as the time passed and I ventured upon the journey that I described in my transformation video, he was very happy to see me transformed and to see me do things. And when I got into the second job, he was very happy for me. He was happy for me anyways, but he was happy that okay, the struggles that we have done so far are worthwhile, and that is one aspect, friends, which I really look forward to in life, because the struggles that have gone by in the 3 decades can only be compensated by what I do according to the definition of what my parents have for me. They do not have any definition, but there is some few things that I can see and perceive of what they want from me, having given me so much love. So that was the journey of my entering into the fitness phase and carrying on with my job. And when I came in the pandemic to my house, and I decided to stay with my parents, I decided to not go back to Bangalore, took a transfer to Kolkata, which my father always wanted. And when I gave that to him, it was a feeling of giving back something that the person really had asked for, because that is the least I could do in those situations. So in those times, friends, I had this in me, and to learn skills that I lacked, to skills, because I had not learned very many skills outside of the struggle that I was going through, outside of the struggle of having a mental illness and all those struggles. I did not experiment skills which are essential for a person to grow as a young adult. So in 2022, I decided that I will learn driving, and I told my father that we need a car, and he never said no to anything in life, but he was a bit apprehensive about the parking situation and how the dynamics were in our apartment, which were not conducive to him, and there were other problems in the place that I was living at. And I, through my assertions and assertive behavior, managed to solve many of the issues that were there, which he was not able to handle. So that I could do. Father was unplugging his phone from the socket, and while he pulled the charger out of the socket, he fell on his hip. So the fall wasn't bad, and I was right there as I looked into the incident. He was in a lot of pain, and he told me that he needed assistance, and we needed to go to the nearby emergency of the nearby hospital, which I did, and we took him to the nearby hospital. But unfortunately, the main issue wasn't diagnosed of a fracture in the hip joint and a dislocation also. Those aspects weren't covered in the diagnosis at all. What happened was a bout of pneumonia that happened in the hospital. So nothing was done on the regard of the injury that he sustained. And after 3 weeks, I told him that we have to get you discharged because they are not doing anything, and only money is being spent worthlessly from the medical insurance that I had from my company. So he agreed to me again. He hasn't said no to anything or any a, any idea that I come up with. He hasn't said no to that either. So we brought him back home. He was happy to be at home. Um, my mother took great care of him. We had a very pleasant time. Even after his injury, he was able to go to the washroom with one leg, and he was able to sustain his activities. So we thought that let's stay in course with what we are doing, and maybe when the right time comes, we can again go to the hospital, another hospital, and seek treatment. But what happened was he developed numbness in the other leg as well, because it was a major injury. So my brother also came during those times. So my brother also was here in those times, and we sought physiotherapy. So the physiotherapist was doing the therapy, but my father wasn't receiving or getting help from it that much. So the physiotherapist recommended for an X-ray, and when the actual X-ray was done in the right way, it revealed the actual injury, the dislocation and the fracture of the socket in the hip, in the pelvis. So what happened was, uh, that a different one. It was decided that we could have a surgery. He could actually recover by having a surgery. So taking the decision of doing a surgery on an 80-year-old is itself a very bold call. But my father realized the situation of the household, that how the household was suffering, realized the situation of the household and what my aged mother and me were going through because of my condition also. So he decided to take the call and said yes to the surgery. So when we had the surgery, it was kind of successful initially, but the post-operative care after the subsequent weeks wasn't good. So he developed edema on in some weeks, and he had a sodium deficiency in his blood. So when he passed away, he was a very peaceful person. He just hugged me. Uh, he was wearing a sweater that I had brought from Bangalore, that I had purchased after my transformation. So he hugged me at that situation and hugged my mom also, and he just passed away in the bed after few times, because I was also working that day. There was a bit of work pressure that was there in my project also. But I bought some. There was some kind of ICU care that we tried to replicate at our home, because through the physician. But as I went to the chemist shop, bought all the equipments, he was no longer there with us. So the journey that I have had with my father, and whatever I am and whatever I am doing in life, is because of him and will be because of him. And we always remember him. That is why he's a part of our lives, and we feel that he has never left us. Thank you for listening patiently to that story, friends. That was a very close story that I thought of bringing out in Father's Day, where I have not posted much of my family in social media. I thought of bringing out this story from the heart. Thank you for listening, and have a great life ahead. Thank you.